got you. Wherever you want it from, we got what you need. Don't get online class, we got you.
Good day, everyone. Once again, you are welcome to a online class. Just as I've introduced the set of numbers, so the first set of numbers, the first set of numbers are called the natural numbers. The natural numbers. So denoted, this one is denoted as n, as we have it on the board. Good day, viewers all over the world. You are welcome to Toydale online class. So today we want to continue with question and answer section. So we are going to consider about 15 to 20 questions today on different topics. So I just want us to concentrate, and probably if you can get our writing materials as we continue. So the first question that we are going to consider today is under partial fraction. And the question says that if x plus p is equal to x minus 1 into bracket x minus 3 is equivalent to q all over x minus 1 plus plus 2 all over x minus 3. So the question now says find the value of p plus q. That is what we are asked to find. So that is a partial fraction. So we are given a partial fraction as we have it on the board. So we are given a partial fraction as we are given on the board. And I have a video on the partial fraction. You know, if you want to resolve a compound fraction to a partial fraction, we consider the nature of the denominator. In this case now, the nature of this denominator are linear factors. So once we have linear factors, in this case now we have two linear factors, just resolve it in this form. Then from there, we are going to use the denominator of this left hand side to multiply through. So if I use this to multiply this solution, I'm going to get x plus p here, because if I said x minus 1 multiplied by x minus 3, this will take care of this. I will be left with this. If I use the denominator to multiply q all by x plus 1, this will take care of this. I'll be left with this. So this will be q into bracket x minus 3, then plus 2. If I use the whole of this, x minus 1 into bracket x minus 3 to multiply x minus 3, this will take care of this. I'll be left with x minus 1. So from here now, from this point now, there are two methods of resolution. So once we have gotten to this place, is that use the cover-up method or method of comparing coefficient. That is, if you want to use cover-up method, we assume that in this case now, you know, we have x minus 3 here. If you put s to be equal to 3, so 3 minus 3 will be 0. So this one will vanish. Then we get the value of the second one. We now come back and say and put x equal to 1. So the second one, when we put x equal to 1, this part will vanish. Then we get the value for q. That is the method of that is the cover-up method. But if you don't want to use cover-up method, just expand and collect the like times coefficient of x to x, constant to constant. Now compare what's value of x here, what's value of x here, what's value of constant here, and in this case. So there are two methods of resolution. Once we're able to write it on the straight line like this, at this point there are two methods of resolution. So if you want to know more about this, just watch my video on partial fractions. Okay, so in this case, I want to use cover-up method. We say put s equal to 3. So if s equal to 3, I'm going to have 3 plus p to be equal to 3 minus 3 here will be 0. 0 times q, everything vanish here. Then I will have 2 into bracket 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1, that is 2. So I'm going to have into bracket 2. Then I will have 3 plus p to be equal to 4. P will be equal to 4 minus 3, and that is 1. So p is equal to 1. We have gotten the value of p. So I will also say put x is equal to 1. That is, I'm going to get 1 plus p to be equal to If I put x equal to 1 here, 1 minus 3, that's minus 2. Minus 2 times q, that will be minus 2q. Then if x equal to 1 here, 1 minus 1 is 0. This part will vanish. Then at the end of the day, I will get 1 minus p and 1 plus p to be equal to minus 2q. Then what is p? P is 1, so I will have 1 plus 1 to be equal to minus 2q. So 2 is equal to minus 2q. Let's divide both sides by 2. If we divide both sides by 2, then here will be 1. No, let's divide both sides by minus 2. This will cancel this. The minus 1 is equal to q. This implies that q is equal to minus 1. So we have to find p plus q. So the value of p plus q at the end of the day, p plus q will now be 1 plus minus 1. Then that will be 1 minus 1, and that's equal to 0. So p plus q is equal to 0. So in this question now, the right option will be 0. That is, if this is a multiple choice question, then the right option will be 0. If what you have here is a multiple choice question, then the right option there will be 0. So we go to the second question. The second question is under set theory. It said in a class of 40 students, 32 offer mathematics. Let's abbreviate. 32 offer mathematics, 24 offer physics, and 4 offer neither mathematics nor physics. So the question now says, how many offer, that's how many students offer both mathematics and physics. So that's what we want to find. So this is a question that required a Venn diagram. It's a question that required Venn diagram. So our knowledge of Venn diagram will actually help us here. It's a question that required Venn diagram. So our knowledge of Venn diagram will actually help us here. So what do we do here? In this case now, we are going to list out what we are given and what we are required to find. What are we given? So of course there are 2. So let me just sketch the Venn diagram here. The universal is 40. That is the highest consideration. The total number of students under consideration is 40. So that's universal. Let's sketch this for mathematics. There are just 32 that offer mathematics. Then it is possible to have students that will offer both mathematics and physics. Physics, we have 24. So there will be some that will offer both, just like how many offer, that is mathematics intersection physics. Let's represent it as x. Okay, that is x. Then we have 4 that offer neither. So let's put the 4 outside here. So those that offer mathematics now will now be mathematics only will be 32 minus x. The total number that offer mathematics is this first cycle is 32. But out of the 32, some offer mathematics and physics. But those that offer mathematics only will now be 32 minus those that offer mathematics and physics. Then we go to the physics portion also. The total number of students that offer physics is 24. Out of the 24, some offer mathematics. Then those that offer physics only will be 24 minus x. So how do we now get x, which is the number of students that offer both mathematics and physics? So this is what we do. We are going to add up. We add everything that we have inside this rectangle. We equate it to 40 just to be able to get the value of x. That is, we say 32 minus x plus 24 minus x plus 4 that did not offer any of the two is equal to 40. It's equal to 40 total number of students. The minus x can take care of x. 32 plus 24 is 56 plus 4, that's 60 minus x is equal to 40. Okay, then 60 minus 40 is going to give us x. So x is equal to 20. So 20 students, that is mathematics intersection physics, will be 20. So 20 students offers both mathematics and physics. So if you have this type of question, the knowledge of Venn diagram will actually help us to be able to solve this type of problem. So if you want to know more on set theory, so just check my video on set theory 2, Venn diagram. So that is what you have. So I'm going to give another question under quadratic equation. The question says solve 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equal to 0. So this is quadratic equation. So if you want to know more on quadratic equation, just check my video on theory of quadratic equation. So everything that you are required to know on quadratic equation, you get it there. So the third question says that solve the equation. The equation is 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equal to 0. So how do we solve this? So if you want to solve quadratic equation, there are about 4 methods that we can use to solve this problem. We can use the first one, which is called the factorization method, and that is the simplest method. So if you don't want to apply factorization method, you can apply what is called the completing the square method. So if you don't want to use that, you can also apply the formula method. That is that where we have x to be equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That is the formula method. Then if you don't want to use that method also, if you have aid, with the aid of graph, you can solve this problem graphically. Then you trace your roots along the x-axis. So those are the 4 methods that we can use. But I'm going to apply factorization method here because this question is factorizable. How do I know? If you want to apply factorization method here, this is what you do. Take the coefficient of x squared, use it to multiply the constant, the one that doesn't have x. That is, say 2 multiplied by minus 5, that will be minus 10. Okay, now think, you look for the 2 factors of this minus 10 that will give us minus 3, which represent the coefficient of x. Now minus 10, what are the 2 factors that we can get in minus 10? It can be minus 10 times 1 times minus 10. We can have 2 times minus 5. We can have minus 5. We can have minus 2 times 5. So which of these is the appropriate factors that will suit this value? So minus 10 plus 9 plus 1 is minus 9. Then in this case, this plus 1, then you can have minus 1, this will be 9. 2 and this 2 plus minus 5 is minus 3. This is plus 3. So this is the appropriate factor. So we now say 2x squared. Instead of minus 3x now, I will change it to minus 5x plus 2x minus 5 equal to 0. So look at it very well. You choose the appropriate factors. So you are going to choose the appropriate factor. So you choose the appropriate factor. So if that is taken, then we now do the grouping. Just group it into 2. What is common in this first bracket is x. Then we are left with 2x minus 5. Then what is common here is plus 1. It's only one that is common. You have 2x minus 5 equal to 0. So in this case now, when you apply factorization method to solve quadratic equation, what you have in the first bracket must be the same thing that you have in the second bracket. So you now combine. You combine this one, x plus 1. You say x plus 1. Then you pick one of these since they are the same. 2x minus 5 equal to 0. Then the product of 2 factors equal to 0 simply means x plus 1 equals 0 or 2x minus 5 equals 0. So here we have x equal to minus 1 or 2x is equal to 5. So x is equal to minus 1 or 5 all over 2. And that is what we are going to get. That's what we are going to get. So if you have minus there, that's what we are going to get. And if you have this, if you are given the root of this equation, you should be able to get the equation. You can be asked to find the equation whose roots are minus 1 and 5. So just check my notes, my video on theory of quadratic equation. So we take another question. Let's take another question. So let's take another question. Question 4. So let's take another question also on partial fraction. So please, if you want to know more on partial fraction, just check my video on partial fraction. So there are 4 types. So the question says resolve resolve 7x minus 9 plus 19 all over x plus 1 into bracket x plus 5 into partial fraction. What you actually have here is the compound fraction. So we want to split it into 2 or more partial fraction. So what do we do? So this is what we do. We just say 7x plus 19 all over x plus 1, then x plus 5. If you want to resolve this now, if you want to resolve any compound fraction into partial fraction, you check it is the nature of the denominator that will tell us what to do. In this case also, we have two factors. These are linear factors. So if you want to resolve this partial, just say a all over x plus 1, then plus b all over x plus 5. So these are linear factors. At times you can have non-linear factors. There's a way to resolve it. So if you really want to know more about partial fractions, just check my video on partial fraction. Then what do we do? What do we have? We have 7x plus 19 to be equal to, we are going to multiply it through by x plus 1 and x plus 5. So if you multiply this, we cancel this. We are left with this. This will take care of this. We have this. We have a into bracket x plus 5. Then plus x plus 5 will take care of x plus 5. We are left with b into bracket x plus 1. So I prefer cover up method. Once we get here, once we get to this point, there are two methods of resolution. Is that you use comparing coefficients or cover up method. So I'll also use cover up method here because it's faster. So I'll just say put x equal to minus 5. That is, this is x plus 5. If I assume x to be minus 5 here, this place will vanish. Then I'll be able to get the value of b. So if I come back and assume the value of x to be minus 1 here, b will vanish. I'll get the value of a. So that is why I prefer cover up method, because it looks faster. So when I put x equal to minus 5, I'm going to have 7 into bracket minus 5 plus 19 to be equal to minus 5 plus 5 is 0. So this one will vanish. Then I will only have value for this b into bracket minus 5 plus 1. Then this is minus 35 plus 19 will be equal to minus 4b. So this will give us minus 16. Minus 16 will be equal to minus 4b. Let's divide both sides by minus 4. Minus 4. This will take care of this. So b will be equal to minus 4. So we have gotten the value of b. B is equal to minus 4. So once we know the value of b, then we can go ahead and find the value of a. Then we also say put s equal to minus 1. If you put s equal to minus 1 here, I'm going to have 7 into bracket minus 1 plus 19 to be equal to a into bracket minus 1 plus 5. Then if I put minus 1 there, b will vanish. So at the end of the day, I'm going to have 19 minus 7 to be equal to 4a. So 12 is equal to 4a. So from here, I don't want to clean this. So let's just move from here. Then let's divide both sides by 4. 4a divided by 4. This will cancel this. Here 1, here 3. So a is equal to 3. So we are getting the value of a to be 3 and b to be minus 4. So we just substitute. We substitute for the value of a and b. Then that's the final stage. Then from here now, I'll just come here. I'll just come here and put the value of a. A is 3. So I'll say 3 all over s plus 1 plus 4 all over s plus 5. So this is what we are asked to do. We have been able to resolve this into partial fraction. So if we add this, if we find the SCM here, and resolve it, we'll come back to this compound fraction. So if you really want to know more about partial fraction, just check my video on partial fraction. So we move to the next question. And that question is under matrices. We want to find the inverse of a matrix, 2 by 2 matrix. So the question says the inverse of a matrix n, which is given as 2, 3, 1, 4, is, that is, this matrix n. So how do you, it's not all matrices that has inverse. It's only singular matrices that have inverse. Then a matrix is said to be singular if the determinant is non-zero. That is, if the determinant is not equal to 0, then that matrix is singular. So to know more, just check my video on matrices. Then how to find determinant of a matrix and inverse of a matrix. So if you want to find the inverse of a matrix, this matrix N, we want to find the inverse, N inverse. So by formula, N inverse is equal to the adjoint of N all over determinants of N. Once the determinant of N is 0, this matrix does not have inverse. So the first thing, if you have to find the inverse of a matrix, just find the determinant. Once the determinant is equal to 0, then the implication is that matrix does not have inverse. The matrix is not invertible because it's a singular matrix has no inverse. So it's only non-singular matrix that have inverse. Inverse, that is matrix that has the determinant not to be 0, non-zero. So in this case now, the inverse of N will be, this is how we find the inverse. The determinant of N will be, you multiply the element along the leading diagonal minus the other diagonal. That is, I will say 2 times 4 minus 3 times 1. Then that will give me 8 minus 3, and that is 5. So in this case now, this matrix N has inverse because the determinant is not equal to 0. But if we find determinant and determinant equal to 0, we just conclude that this matrix has no inverse. But in this case now, it has inverse. Then, since we are sure that it has inverse, we can go ahead and find the adjoint. Then how do we find the adjoint? To be able to find this adjoint now, there are 3 steps that we're going to take. We first find the minus. After the minus, we find the cofactors. Cofactor simply means minus with appropriate signs. Then when we now transpose the cofactor, it is called the adjoint. So those are the 3 steps that we'll quickly take. So in this case now, the adjoint of no, I will start with the minus of N. How do I find the minus? Just look at, if you want to find the minus, 2 is along the first column and first row. So you pretend as if you cover the first column and first row. You write out the leftover. This will be the minus of the first one. Then 3 is along the first row and second column. So if you pretend as if you cover the first row and second column, you are left with 1. Then 1 here is along the second row and first column. What you have left is 3. Then 4 is along the second column and second row. So you have 2. These are the minus of N. Then we find the cofactors. The cofactors of N will just be minus with appropriate sign. The appropriate sign here, the first one will be plus, minus, minus, plus. So that is, if you do that, the first one is plus, so it's still maintain 4. The second one is negative, so this will be negative 1. The third one will be negative 3, while this one will be 2. So this is the minus. Then the last one, the last step is the adjoint of N. The adjoint of N simply means you transpose. Transpose simply means we change row to column. First row, which is 4 and minus 1, becomes first column. We have 4 and minus 1. The second row becomes second column, minus 3 and 2. And that's what we have done. So finally, the adjoint, the inverse of N will now be, of course, let's note our determinant is 5. The inverse of N will now be, the adjoint 4 minus 3 minus 1, 2 all over 5. That's what you get. Then this can be, we can write it as 1 all over 5 into brackets 4 minus 3 minus 1, 2. So without going through all this stress, if you want to find the inverse of 2 by 2 matrix, this is what you do. No, you don't have the time there. This is what you do. Just find the determinant. Leading diagonal, 2 times 4 minus, that is 5. Put 1 over 5 outside. Then this is what you do. You just interchange this leading diagonal now. This leading diagonal, just bring 4 here. Bring 4, you bring this one here, you bring the second one here. Then introduce negative to this ordinary diagonal. This other diagonal. That's just it. Instead of going through all this process, you don't have that time when you are dealing with multiple choice questions. What you are expected to do is that find determinant. Once you know determinant, just put 1 over 5 into brackets. What you are given here, this is called the leading diagonal. Just exchange the leading diagonal. 2 to 4, 4 to 2. Then the other diagonal, this other diagonal, just leave it. Introduce negative. Adibi, you have negative here, it becomes plus. But because this is plus, just use multiply by negative. That's the inverse. So you don't really need to stress yourself. That is just the brain behind everything that is needed under 2 by 2 matrix. So it's easier to find the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix. That's just the logic. So I've just taught us the logic now. Okay. So the 6th question now. is under Trig. So please, I have about 3 or 4 videos on Trig. Just go through it. When we have Trig, introduction to trigonometry, where we have double angle, triple angle, we can have half angle. Okay, just try and check my video on trigonometry. So the question says that given that sine theta is equal to 4 all over 5 and theta is acute, find A cos theta, then B cosec theta, then C cot theta. Of course, you can be required to find one at a time under multiple choice question. I just try to merge everything together so that we'll be able to revise. So that's the idea. So under multiple choice question, it's only one. Is that you'll be asked to find tan theta, cos theta, cosec theta, sec theta, or cot theta. So I just try to put everything together so that we'll be able to revise Trig. So we are given sine. Of course, we are going to sketch a right angle triangle. Let's call this place theta. So sine theta will be opposite 4 all over 5. So that's sine theta. So the question says if you find cos theta. So if we apply SOHCAHTOA, of course we know the value of this adjacent for us to be able to find this. So if you apply Pythagoras theorem here, we know that 5 squared hypotenuse squared is equal to opposite squared, which is 4 squared plus s squared adjacent square. Pythagoras theorem. So 25 is equal to 16 plus x squared. 25 minus 16 is equal to s squared. Then 9 is equal to s squared. So when we take the square root of both sides, square, we can cancel square root. So x is equal to 3. So we have gotten the value of this place to be 3. So since we know the 3 sides now, we can go ahead and solve for what we are required. The first one, we have to find cos theta. So cos theta will be adjacent, SOHCAHTOA. Cos is k, adjacent all over hypotenuse. That is 3 all over 5. Then B, we have to find cosec theta. So what is cosec theta? Cosec theta is reciprocal of sine. That is 1 all over sine theta. Cosec theta is 1 all over sine theta. So cosec theta will now be 5 all over 4. That's reciprocal of sine. Then C, cot theta, that's cotangent. Cot theta is 1 all over tan. So what is tan theta from here? Tan theta equal to 2, opposite 4 all over 3. That's tan theta. Then cot theta, which is cotangent. Cot theta will be 3 all over 4. It's reciprocal of tangent. So that will be 3 all over 4. And that is what we are asked to do. So please, you just have to be conversant with all this sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, cosecant, secant, and the rest. So just make sure you are familiar with all this terminology. Then number 7, the question says using addition formula. So I also have this in one of my videos. So please just check. Evaluate cos 15 degrees. Let me check. No. The question is not number 7. Using addition formula. Evaluate cos 15 degrees. Okay. So why do we have addition formula? We have addition formula because we have some angles that are not special angles. You know, at the elementary stage, we talk about special angles like angle 30, 45, angle 90, 135, 180, 270, 360. Those are special angles, and they have their unique value. Of course, we know the value of hand. So since we know, once we know how to sketch or how to generate, we can actually generate the value. So if you want to know the value of sine 30 and 60, you use equilateral triangle to know the value of those. This will be 2, 2, 2. So if I try to break this into 2 now, there will be 1, 1. So this angle will be 60. This place will be 60. So I split this to 30, 30. So if you want to know the value of sine theta, sine 30, sine 60, cos 30, cos 60, you use equilateral triangle. If you now want to know that of 45, then you use this angle. You use you use this isosceles triangle. This will be 1, 1. So when you take the square, this will be square root of 2. Here is 45. This place is also 45. So for special angles, we know their values, but there are some. We also have some angles that are not special, just like 15. So how do I know the cos of cosine of 15? Then that's the reason why we have addition formula. So for me to be able to find this cos 15 now, I'm going to rewrite this. I can change this to cos 45 minus 30. Of course, what is 35 minus 45 minus 30 is 15. Since I cannot get this directly, then I have to resolve it in this form. Then the formula for this will be cos 45 cos 30 minus sine 45 sine 30. So please check my video on addition formula. So we have double angles, triple angles. So just check my video on trigonometry generally. We are going to see all this formula, because when we have, in this case now, it's just a case of cos A minus B. We can also have cos A, or for instance, if you have to find sine 75 degrees, so that would be, we split 75 into 30 plus 45. So that would be 45 plus 30. So if this plus, there's a way you rewrite it. So please, let's take note. Okay. So in this case now, what is cos 45? Cos 45 is 1 all over root 2. Multiplied by cos 30 is sine 60. That is root 3 all over 2. Minus sine 45 is 1 all over root 2. Multiplied by sine 30 is half. So sine 30 is half. So when we have negative here, it is positive. So in this case now, we are going to have root 3 all over 2 root 2 plus 1 all over 2 root 2. So if I find the LCM, I'm going to get 2 root 2. So I'll get root 3 plus 1. That's what I'm going to get. But at this case now, I can rationalize by root 2 and root 2. So if I do that, at the end of the day, I'm going to get root 6 plus root 2 all over 2 times root 2 and times root 2, that's 2. 2 times 2, 4. So that will be the value. Or I can just bring 1 all over 4 outside into bracket, root 6 minus, plus root 2. So that will be the value of cos 15 degrees. So without the knowledge of addition formula, we may not be able to get this without using calculator, because at times the question will say without using table or calculator, find cos or sine 15. We can find the angles that are not special angles. So it is possible that will be required to find angles that are not special angles. So we just have to find the angles. So that is that about special angle. Then still using the same question, still under the same question, I want us to find, let's find sine 2 theta. So this is question under double angle. So we have a question under double angle, sine 2 theta. How do we find sine 2 theta? It has its own formula. So sine 2 theta is given as 2 sine theta cos theta. That is what you get. Understand? Then in this case, we have 2. What is sine theta? Sine theta is given as 4 all over 5. Multiplied by cos theta is given as 3 all over 5. At the end of the day, we have 2 times 4, 8. 8 times 3, 24. So we have 24 all over 25. So sine 2 theta is going to give us 24 all over 25. So if you really want to know more about trigonometry general, just check. I have about 3 or 4 videos on trig, on trigonometry. So you can be asked to find cos 2 theta. You can be asked to find tan 2 theta. You can be asked to find sine square theta. You can be asked to find cos square theta. So irrespective of what you're asked to find, just go through my video. You are going to see all the formula there. Then you can also be asked to find sine 3 theta. You can even be asked to find sine 5 theta. It's just all about expanding. So that is that about trig. So we take another question. Say question 9. So the question says, if alpha, beta are the roots of x squared plus 3x is equal to 5 of this quadratic equation, so we have to calculate the values of the first question, alpha plus beta. That's the first question. We have to calculate value of alpha plus beta. The second one, alpha beta. The third one, alpha squared plus beta squared. Then the last one, we have to calculate alpha minus beta. As I've said earlier on, in a multiple choice question, you'll be asked just one question at a time. But I just want to compress everything there so that you can actually know the possibility. This type of question is also under theory of quadratic equation. So I have a video on this. So if you actually want to know more about this, then you go and check my video on theory of quadratic equation. X squared plus 3x is equal to 5. It's a quadratic equation because I can write it as x squared plus 3x minus 5 equal to 0. So we know the first one, that alpha plus beta by formula is given as minus b all over a. The value in this case now, a is equal to 1. That's the coefficient of x squared. B is equal to 3. That is coefficient of x. And c is equal to minus 5. That's constant, the constant there. So in this case now, we have minus 3 all over 1. That's minus 3. So alpha plus beta is equal to minus 3. Then the second one, alpha beta by formula is given as c all over a. C is minus 5 all over 1. And that's equal to minus 5. So it's as simple as that. Then irrespective of what we are asked to find, like alpha square, you can even be asked to find alpha cube plus beta cube. You must rewrite everything in form of sum and product. Whatever you are asked to find, in this case now, you have to rewrite this in form of sum and product to be able to get the answer. So this C part of the question now, you see what I'm going to do? This C part of the question now, where we have alpha square plus beta square. So we can rewrite this to be alpha plus beta all squared minus 2 alpha beta. So in this case now, please just go through my video on theory of quadratic equation. We are going to see how I resolve this. So in this case now, this will be minus 3 alpha plus beta. We have got the value squared minus 2 into bracket minus 5. So this is going to give us 9. Minus times minus is plus, 2 times 5, 10. So this will give us 19. So alpha square plus beta square is going to give us 19. Then where we have D, this is C, where we have alpha minus beta. So alpha minus beta, we can express it as square root of alpha plus beta all squared minus 4 alpha beta. Please, the expression of this, you can get it. Just check my video on theory of quadratic equation. You are going to know. You are going to get how how this one is, how I move from alpha minus beta to this value. So in this case now, this is going to give us minus 3 squared plus 4 into bracket minus 5. So whatever you want to do under this alpha beta stuff, you must be able to rewrite everything in form of sum and product. So this is going to give us 9. This is minus. The minus times minus is plus. 4 times 5, 20. So at the end of the day, we are going to have square root of 29, which will represent the value of alpha minus beta. So you can be asked to find alpha cube plus beta cube. Alpha cube minus alpha cube minus beta cube. So we can even be asked, you can even be asked to find 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta. So we can have question in any form. You can say find 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta. So in this case, now just take the SCM alpha beta. Alpha in alpha, we have beta plus alpha. So alpha plus beta is same thing as beta plus alpha. They are symmetric. So in this case now, we are going to have minus 3 all over minus 5. Minus will take care of minus. Then at the end of the day, this value is 3 all over 5. So please, so if you want to know more on this, just try and check my video on theory of quadratic equations. Check my video on theory of quadratic equation. So let me introduce another question. And this question is on binary operations. The question says find the, okay, let me use inverse elements. Find the inverse element in R under the operation asterisk given by A asterisk B to be equal to AB for all AB belongs to R. So now let's look at this. So in this case now, this question is under binary operations. And I have a video on binary operations. Under binary operations, there are 6 properties that we check. The first one is called the closure property. So closure property actually is the first property that are certain that if you have this, this is a set and this is an operation. That is, if you now have this set R and this operation, how do we know that this operation is closed in this set? So that's the first property, closure property. Then we move from closure property to commutative property. So under commutative property, we just check that if you have A and B that belongs to that set, A plus B, A asterisk B, can it be equal to B asterisk A? If that is the case, then we say it is A and B. We say the operation is commutative. Then we move to associative. We have associative property, distributive property, before we now go to identity elements before inverse elements. So in this case now, the question says find the identity elements. You can never get the identity element without the, we can never get the inverse element without the identity element. So if you have to find the inverse element, the first thing that you are required to do is for you to first find the identity element. So once we know the identity, that's where we can actually find the inverse element. So the first thing that I'm going to do now is that I will go ahead and find the inverse element. So this is how A asterisk B is defined as AB. So I will say let E be the identity element. We have to find the inverse element, but we cannot get the inverse element without the identity element. So that A asterisk B is defined as this. If E is the identity, it simply means that if I have A asterisk E, it's same thing as E asterisk A, and it was giving A. For instance, other addition, the identity element is 0. 2 plus 0, will it not be 2? 2 under multiplication, the identity element is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. It simply means that the under the operation now, operation times, this one is neutral. It does not have effect on the result. If 0 does not have effect when you when under addition, that 0 doesn't have effect. Anything you add to is nothing. Is the value of that thing will retain itself. So in this case now that simply means that A asterisk E or E asterisk K must give us A. That simply means that this E is neutral. So A asterisk E will now is defined as what? AE here. Because A asterisk B is defined as AB. A asterisk E will be defined as AE, and it must give us A. Let's divide both sides by A. Divide both sides by A. A will take care of A. Here 1, in this 1. So E is equal to 1. So the inverse element is 1. So we have gotten the inverse element in this case. I mean, we have gotten the identity element as 1. So since we now know the identity element, we can go ahead and find the inverse element. So what is the inverse element? We can say let A inverse be the inverse element. So what is the implication of this? A asterisk A inverse must give us the identity. I said under addition, the identity is 0. So how do I get it by 0? If I have 2 minus 2, I'm going to get 0. So minus 2 is the additive inverse of 2. Minus 2 is the additive inverse of 2. Then I said 2 times 1 is 2. 1 is identity element, under multiplication. How do I get my 1? I'll say 2 multiplied by the reciprocal of 2. It must give me 1. That is 1 all over 2. Here 1, here 2. So in this case now, if you have an element and you are operating that element with the inverse, you must get the identity. That's the logic. So in this case now, the identity is what? 1. Then how do I get my inverse element? This is what we do. I will now say A asterisk A inverse. It's going to give, which is equal to, is given as A times A inverse is equal to identity. A multiplied by A inverse will be equal to identity is 1. Then what is my inverse element? The inverse element, A inverse, now we divide both sides by A. Divide both sides by A. A will take care of A. So A inverse will now be 1 all over A. And that is what we are expected to get. So under multiple choice question, if you are asked to find the inverse element, this would, depending on the nature of the, on how this binary operation is defined. So it's the definition of this binary operation that will determine what we do. In this case now, A asterisk B is given as AB. It is possible to define A asterisk B as AB plus A plus B. We can have different. We can have it in different form. So it is the nature of these operations that will determine what we do. So if you really want to know more about binary operations, just check my video on binary operations. So we take another question. So this one is under matrices. We have if A is equal to 1, 3, 4, 1, and B is equal to 0, 7, minus 2, 5. So find the first one, A plus B, then A minus B. So the first one, A plus B. So what is A? 1, 3, 4, 1. Then plus B, 0, 7, minus 2, 5. What do we do here? We add first entry to first entry. First row, first column to first row, first column. First row, second column to first row, second column. Second row, first column. Second row, first column to second row, first column. Then second row, second column to second row. That is, I will say 1 plus 0. Then 3 plus 7. 3 plus 7. I will say 4 plus minus 2. 4 plus minus, that's 4 minus 2. Then 1 plus 5. 1 plus 5. So at the end of the day, I'm going to get 1, 10, 2, 6. That will be the answer. A plus B is going to give me 1, 10, 2, 6. Then A minus B, still the same thing. If I have A minus B, the second one, A minus B, I'll just change the sign. 1, 3, 4, 1 minus 0, 7 minus 2, 5. Then A, I'm going to have 1 minus 0, 3 minus 7, 2, 4 minus, that's minus 2. Here will be 4 minus 2, then 1 minus 5. So if I do that, then if I solve that, I'm going to get, let me write the answer here. So I'm going to get 1 minus 0 is 1. 3 minus 7 minus 4. 4 minus minus is plus. So 4 plus 2, 6. Then 1 minus 5 minus 4. So A minus B is going to give me this value. A minus B will actually give me that value. So once we follow it step by step. So I would love to stop here because of our time. So we continue from there some other time. So I just want us to go over this question and answer over and over. Then if you have any gray area that you don't really understand, you can type it at the comment section, or you go and check my video on that concept. So thank you so much, and God bless you all.